What does momentum look like to us at Anterix? Throughout last year, major forces aligned to build increasing momentum in the utility industry's adoption of private LTE to support the modern grid technologies that will enable a more secure, reliable, and cleaner energy future. In 2023 and beyond, Anterix will continue to build the momentum behind 900 megahertz private LTE as we educate, innovate, and collaborate across the energy and telecommunications sectors to support grid modernization and the clean energy transition. Anterix, it's where utility meets connectivity. To learn more, visit anterix.com.
Thank you for meeting us at the intersection, where the worlds of energy and technology come together.
Thank you for meeting us at the intersection, sponsored by Anterix. For those of you listening for the first time, welcome. And for returning listeners, welcome back. I'm UTC Interim President and CEO Ron Beck, and today I'm honored to host Bobby Sadler, Senior Director, Telecom Infrastructure and Growth for the Lower Colorado River Authority in Texas. During his 13 years at LCRA, Bobby specialized in technology, engineering, and operations. While it would take an entire episode to list his LCRA responsibilities, here's a quick list. They include telecom strategy, planning, engineering, architecture for systems that include fiber, microwave, 900 and 700 megahertz mission critical radio, security appliances, and so much more. Bobby also has deep roots with UTC. He served as a member of the national board and as well as the chairman of UTC's Region 7. Bobby, thank you again for joining us. Is there anything else you'd like to share about yourself or LCRA?
Thank you, Ron. I am very happy to be here. Long-standing relationship with UTC. Love what UTC has been able to do. It's been very beneficial to me personally and to LCRA. And I'll start by telling everybody a little bit about LCRA because sometimes it's confusing. I get the question of, well, you're in Denver, right? It's the Colorado River. Not exactly. LCRA was established in 1934 by the Texas legislature. And what we do is we provide public power, manage the Colorado River, that's the Texas Colorado River, and we build and operate transmission lines across the state of Texas. We also maintain parks, we manage the water, we manage flood, but we are an entity of the state of Texas. Some interesting facts about the Colorado River: 862 miles long. It is the 11th longest river in the U.S., the longest river to start and stop in the same state. And it's entirely in the state of Texas. So it's not the Colorado River, which causes some confusion. In Colorado, it's the one in Texas. It also encompasses the Highland Lakes that are in and around Austin. So LCRA is based in Central Texas. We're based in Austin. We serve more than 30 city utilities and electric cooperatives. We're a generation and transmission company. Over 3,500 megawatts of power, 5,400 circuit miles of transmission line in over 75 counties. We have over 400 substations, and we have 11,000 acres of parks. From a telecommunications standpoint, we have a very large fiber network, large microwave network, and our radio system serves over 25,000 customers daily. That's a little bit about LCRA.
Wow, that really sounds like a huge system. I mean, 75 counties is a large piece of Texas. And I can tell you, having visited Austin a few times, I'm a big fan of the Hill Country. Your collection of bats down there, I think down by the river and the bridges. It's a beautiful city, fun city to visit. And thank you for the clarification. Many of our listeners may have put you in Colorado, but I think I know right where you're at. Recently, LCRA made some of the news, at least in the trade publications that we read here in utility side, about major purchase of spectrum. For telecommunications engineers, spectrum is that magic glue that holds it all together. And when we're doing engineering projects, the formula basically, variables and constants, it sounds like LCRA was successful in taking a big variable, availability of spectrum and its use, out of that equation. What are the challenges that LCRA was looking forward to in this engineering action?
Really good question, Ron, and thank you for it. My background, about half my career was spent with carriers, about half my career was spent with utilities, predominantly LCRA. First year out of college, I consulted for LCRA on a project to roll out their original radio system, which was a 900 megahertz system. Great system. We've had it for over 20, going on 30 years. So it's a long-term decision for us when we put in a system, and we have a very long-term outlook. So in terms of the problems we were looking to solve, this all started back in 2014 when the opportunities came up with the FCC through Anterix, which was PDV Wireless at the time, to consolidate spectrum in the 900 band. That created some very interesting challenges and some very interesting opportunities. So the things that we were looking at as an organization in terms of why, 900 megahertz system, our 900 megahertz system was honestly at end of life. We've had it for a number of years, we've upgraded it, but it was at end of life. So we were at a decision point in terms of what are we going to do for the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years. When you get to that decision point, you're talking about very large capital investments to replace. So it was a great time for us to look at what should we be doing? What are the other utilities around the country doing? What's gonna put us in a position for the future? Spectrum uncertainty is a big deal when we're looking at the future. We want something, if we're making a 20, 30, 40-year decision, we want something that's going to give us certainty. So getting some certainty on our spectrum for the future was a big deal and something we're looking to accomplish. The ability to be on a global standard, that was a big deal for us, right? We are on a proprietary system. There's not a whole bunch of 900 megahertz systems out there that are narrowband. LTE is much more of a global standard. It puts us in a much better position to collaborate with other utilities on how to move forward in the future. And then narrowband is going to carry us so far. It's great. It's great for mission critical push to talk. It's great for critical communications, but it's low speed data. And so we're looking to, what does the utility of the future look like? What do we want to be in the next 5, 10, 20 years? And what is this acquisition going to do for the organization and, quite honestly, the people of the state of Texas?
Wow. So the utility of the future, and I can tell you in my role the last 7 months as interim president and CEO, that is a discussion I hear in a lot of places. There's a lot of crystal ball, if you will. Where is that going to go? And it sounds like LCRA is having that same strategic discussion, where we want to go and what's going to. I know in my previous utility job, putting in the metering system, the advanced metering infrastructure, just changed the data flow, the way that we communicated with our customers. And we'll touch on some of that in a few minutes in a different side of the topic. But now that you have this, and I applaud the vision, because narrowband is only going to go so far. You're spot on there. And I think the choice of moving to the long-term evolution, the private LTE network, is exactly the discussion a lot of those utilities looking at utility of the future are weighing internally above it, the telecom at the application layer, at the customer service to customer rather. Where do you see LCRA's work processes maybe changing as this utility of the future comes to fruition?
Really good question. First and foremost, from a work process standpoint, we're looking at this network as a replacement for our existing. So I mentioned that's end of life. Our first and foremost focus is going to be, how do we take ourselves and all our existing customers who rely on the system daily from our old system to our new system. So as we start to build out, we're going to build out for coverage, and we're going to build a mimicking system of what we have. And we're going to work really hard to make sure that those features and functions that we currently rely on in the system, namely mission critical push to talk, continues to operate. That's a big deal for LCRA, because that's a big part of our existing work process and a big part of what we need as an organization to be reliable, resilient, and keep the lights on. In terms of technology work processes, people that have done technology for a while know that technology network has to precede the solutions. If we wait to upgrade the network until after the solutions are already here, we're behind. So we're looking at what kind of platform do we need to establish for those work processes of the future that are going to be invented. But there's all kinds that are already coming out, like automated meter reading, grid modernization, people management. There's a whole slew of things that are coming out that are going to enable us to be more efficient and more effective. Another big piece of what we're looking at as well from a work process standpoint is network management. From a network management standpoint, what these new networks are going to allow us to do is be a lot more efficient and effective in how we manage those networks because of the metrics and the data that we're going to be able to pull off the networking equipment, the system, if you will. That's going to make us more able to more efficiently dispatch our teams to troubleshoot, manage, and maintain the network.
Absolutely. I mean, that pane of glass, the ability to manage the telecommunications system, we see that as telecommunications managers, systems managers. This is the pane of glass that we are supporting for the electrical side, for the water side, for the gas side. I mean, they are running a SCADA network. And I think sometimes we lose track of the fact that in a modern telecommunications network, we need telecom SCADA. We need to be able to see those throughputs and latencies and things so that we can respond to a problem, as you say. You can direct the right resource to the problem, knowing it's be more proactive. Exactly, what we have all asked or been asked to be, instead of as reactive to an outage. Let's be more proactive and let people know, especially with a storm coming, with other. So let's touch for a second on 25,000 radio customers. Now that is huge, even for 75 counties. I mean, it's a big area. So this implies to me that beyond the mission critical push to talk, the radio system that LCRA operates today to operate its resources, that you've got some other customers on there. Is that police, fire, ambulance services, some of the governmental agencies around your service territory?
We do. So we have been a shared system for a long time. And the types of customers that we have are exactly what you said. It's police, it's fire, it's EMS, it's transit companies, it's flood management, it's school districts, any government entity or entity that qualifies, we can provide services to.
That's outstanding. I mean, that's exactly the community partner that people look to in a public power, in a municipality. Because it's a shared resources model. When it gets down to it, each of those entities could operate their own system. They could operate it with their own technicians, with their own infrastructure, and then we just see hilltops with too many towers on it in some people's view. I happen to like the look of towers, but that shared infrastructure model, I think, is another model, maybe for a different podcast. But I can tell you that's pretty forward looking. Again, the utility of the future. All of those customers rely upon the electrical resources that LCRA provides. But you brought up a couple others: the flood control, the parks and recreation, all of which comes with hydroelectric facilities and just the ability to impound water for irrigation purposes, for recreational purposes. That is something else. I for one applaud you, but I'm sure you get LCRA gets its share of accolades. I've heard them over the years. So now that we've talked a bit about the bigger picture, let's talk a bit about your history, relationship with UTC, and UTC's relationship with LCRA. What have you received as a member? Let's start there.
There's a number of benefits that LCRA gets through its membership with UTC. One of the largest and most unique, I think, is advocacy and public policy. Right? That piece that keeps us in the loop of what different regulations are coming down the pipe from the FCC, and that advocate up at the national level for the causes and the concerns that utilities care about. That's a big piece of what we rely on UTC for. Training is a big piece of what we rely on UTC for. We employ many PEs that need continuing education credits. And when we go to regional conferences, when we go to national conferences, when they do the online classes that UTC offers, that all enables them to get their continuing education credits. Beyond our PEs, we have technicians and technologists that all need continuing education. And so when we go to these conferences, when we go to the education sessions that UTC provides, it gives us a great outlet and a great source of being able to share and receive information. The ability to see what other utilities are doing, the ability to work together as a group. I've worked for national organizations that specialize in communications. Like I said, my whole career has not been with utilities. And one of the advantages that a national, very large organization has is they have many different regions and many different central organizations that are able to help those smaller regions and areas standardize and have better solutions and have better economies of scale. UTC, by bringing utilities together, allows us to not only hear what other utilities are doing and share what we're doing in terms of the larger, greater scope, it also allows us to have the personal connections with many members in technology across different utilities where we can personally call them and understand, hey, what are y'all doing? How are y'all solving this problem? How might we be able to do the same thing here so that we're not reinventing the wheel every day?
That is, I mean, frankly, it's good to hear because that very closely parallels my experience. And one of the reasons when I was asked to step in as the interim, I obliged so quickly, and some say it's just exactly that. It's the networking. Many of our listeners may know, but if you don't, if your company is a member of UTC, pays their dues and is a member, everyone in the company basically is a member and has access to all of those benefits. And one of our challenges has been engagement, is getting people to understand that there are many aspects, many discussions within UTC that you can participate in as a webinar, one way, or as a committee, two-way communications. Get involved in the board as you have, get involved in the region. We have 10 regions. Each of them has a slightly different take on the same topic. So the piece you're talking about in sharing has been huge. Share with us, if you could, as chair of Region 7, how have you within LCRA been able to get the word out that the technicians, technologists, PEs, and others have a resource there? How do we engage beyond the person that, like yourself?
Within LCRA, we've had a long-standing relationship with UTC, and we've seen the benefits over a long period of time. We've had people that have served in leadership positions, such as myself within UTC, and we've had a lot of engagement internally, even with leadership that sees the value that UTC brings. And I think that's key. When your leaders understand, hey, we're getting a lot of value out of this that we're doing, then it's much easier to get things done. And so we have invested in our ability to operate within UTC by sending a number of members to UTC conferences. So when we have a regional conference, LCRA doesn't send one, doesn't send two. We very often send half a dozen, sometimes more, because the more people we get doing this type of engagement with UTC and with our sister and brother utilities around the state and around the region, we just benefit. Same at the national level. We won't send just one person to the national conference to come back and report. We very often send half a dozen to the national conference. And yes, there's cost associated with the travel, but on a bang for the buck kind of scenario, it's hard to find that kind of engagement with other utilities in one place where we just see such positive results. So it's very worth it for us to send multiple people to get to these conferences.
I love to hear it. That has been my charter over the last 6 or 7 months, is just exactly that, to get the word out about the engagement. I like what you're saying, because I think we're on the same page, and I appreciate your thoughts today. Before we close out, is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
I would like to say, in terms of, as we roll out LTE, as we roll out new technologies, not just exclusive to LTE, but the other things that we're doing across the country, utilities are better together. Some utilities are smaller, some utilities are larger. We fit somewhere in the middle, but having that leverage, like we talked about, where you can reach out and find out what other utilities are doing, the more we group together and do this together, the better off we're all going to be.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better, and I appreciate it. Bobby, thank you again for joining us today on The Intersection. I know our listeners will take a lot away from today's discussion. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for meeting us at The Intersection. For more information about the Utilities Technology Council, visit utc.org.